You know, we always think of love as this total mystery, right? But what if I told you that science can actually predict whether a marriage will last? And not just kind of predict, but with stunning accuracy. Well, it turns out it can, and we're going to dive into exactly how.
I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? Like something straight out of a movie. But this was the exact question a team of researchers spent decades trying to answer. And what they discovered, well, it's honestly mind-blowing.
Okay, get ready for this. 94%. That's the number. The accuracy rate they achieved in predicting who'd stay together and who'd split up. Just think about that for a second. 94%. That is more accurate than a lot of medical tests. It's just wild.
And look, this wasn't some lucky guess. It wasn't a fluke. This was the result of 16 years of incredibly detailed, rigorous scientific research. The whole thing was led by a guy named Dr. John Gottman, and it all went down inside this really unique laboratory at the University of Washington.
So the big question is, how on earth did they pull this off? Well, it all happened in a place they called the Love Lab.
Okay, so check out this setup. The Love Lab wasn't some sterile, white coat kind of place. Nope, it was a real, fully functional apartment. Couples would come and stay for the weekend. They'd bring their own groceries, hang out, read books, watch TV, just live their normal lives. But, and this is the key part, the whole time they were being observed. I'm talking 3 video cameras recording every tiny facial expression, microphones catching every single word. They even had Holter monitors tracking their heart rates so scientists could see their stress levels in real time. This wasn't just scratching the surface. This was a total deep dive into what a relationship actually looks like day to day.
So, after sifting through mountains and mountains of this data, a really clear pattern started to pop out. A pattern of, well, destructive behavior. Dr. Gottman found 4 specific communication styles that were so toxic, so deadly to a relationship, he gave them a pretty intense name, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
And we're not just talking about a few bad habits here. These things are literally poison to a relationship. When you see them show up, especially all together, it's like a giant red flag that the marriage is in serious, serious trouble. So what are these 4 horsemen? Okay, let's break them down. The first one is criticism. And it's really important to know this is different from just a complaint. A complaint is about a specific thing, like, hey, you didn't take out the garbage. But criticism, that's an attack on who your partner is. It's, you're so irresponsible, you never remember anything. See that? It's a character attack. Then you have number 2, contempt. And this is the real killer. It's sarcasm, mockery, eye-rolling, name-calling. It's basically saying, I'm better than you. It's pure disrespect. The third is defensiveness. You know this one. It's that immediate, it's not my fault reaction. It's playing the victim to block a perceived attack. And last we have stonewalling. This is when one person just checks out. They go silent, turn away, and completely shut down the conversation. Just knowing what these look like is the first big step to stopping them.
Here's a perfect cringy example of contempt in action. In the lab, a husband, Oliver, made a totally reasonable suggestion about using a to-do list for chores. His wife, Dara, shot back with, just like when you input to-do lists into your phone, it gets done? Oof. You can just feel the sarcasm, the mockery in that, can't you? It's dripping with disgust. And, maybe not surprisingly, 4 years later, they were about to get divorced. This is why Gottman calls contempt the single greatest predictor of divorce. It's that corrosive.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's where the whole story takes a really hopeful turn. Because what the researchers found was that just having the 4 horsemen show up didn't automatically mean a couple was doomed. Some couples fought just as much, and yeah, they even used these toxic styles, but they were happy. They were thriving. So what was the difference? Well, it turns out they had a secret weapon.
And that secret weapon is something called a repair attempt. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's any little thing, and I mean anything, that a partner does to hit the brakes on a fight that's spiraling out of control. It could be making a silly face, or a gentle touch on the arm, or even just saying, whoa, hang on, I'm getting overwhelmed, I need a minute. It's any move, big or small, to stop the bleeding and try to reconnect.
And this is the absolute key. Whether that repair attempt works or fails, that's the fork in the road. If it fails, you go down one path. You get what Gottman calls flooding, where you're just emotionally overwhelmed by all the negativity. That leads to distance, loneliness, the bad stuff. But if the repair attempt succeeds, you go down a totally different path. The fight de-escalates, you feel connected again, you build trust. This one little skill is literally the difference between what he calls the masters and the disasters of relationships.
So, just how big of a difference does this one skill actually make? Well, the data is pretty shocking. It really all comes down to this next number.
Get this, 84%. An incredible 84% of the newlywed couples who were already using those toxic four horsemen, but who were good at making those repairs, were still in stable, happy marriages 6 years down the road. This is so important. Let me say it again. It's not the conflict that predicts divorce. It's the failure to repair. It's the inability to reconnect after the conflict.
Okay, but here's the catch, and it's a big one. For a repair attempt to actually work, it needs a soft place to land. Think about it. If you crack a joke in the middle of a huge fight, it's only going to work if there's a foundation of goodwill there. If there isn't, that joke is just going to sound like more sarcasm, more contempt, right?
And that brings us to the absolute heart of all of this research. The whole system, managing conflict, making repairs, feeling connected, it all rests on one single thing: the quality of the couple's friendship. If that friendship isn't strong, the whole thing just falls apart.
So, okay, how do you build a strong friendship? Gottman says the first tool is something he calls love maps. And a love map is basically the part of your brain where you store all the important, up-to-date information about your partner's life. It's like having a detailed, constantly updating map of their inner world.
And we're not just talking about knowing their favorite color or their birthday. It's so much deeper than that. It's knowing the little stuff, like their favorite salad dressing, sure. But it's also knowing the big stuff. Who are their friends? What's stressing them out at work this week? What are they really, truly scared of? What are their biggest dreams for their life? Couples who are really good at this stuff, they're just intimately familiar with each other's worlds. They've made space in their brain for their partner, and it matters, because really, how can you truly love and support someone if you don't really know them?
The second piece of this friendship foundation is all about turning toward each other instead of away. So all day long, partners make these little tiny bids for connection. It could be a sigh, or pointing something out the window, or asking a question. And here's the crazy statistic. The couples who stayed married, they turned toward those bids 86% of the time. The couples who ended up divorced, they only turned toward them 33% of the time. That difference is huge, and it's all built in these tiny little moments that don't seem like a big deal, but they're what fill up that emotional bank account you're going to need when things get tough.
So, when you take all of this, the scary four horsemen, the hopeful repair attempts, the love maps, all of it, it all boils down to one powerful and actually pretty simple conclusion.
And this quote just nails it. We have this idea that a big, expensive vacation is the thing that will fix our relationship. But the science is crystal clear. That romantic trip only turns up the heat if you've kept the pilot light burning all along. You know, by staying in touch in all those little ways, day after day. Big gestures are great, but they can't ever replace the small, daily acts of connection.
So in the end, a happy, lasting marriage isn't about never fighting. It's about being good at repairing the damage when you do. And that skill is built on a foundation of real friendship. A friendship that isn't built on grand gestures, but in all those tiny, everyday moments of just turning toward each other. And that really just leaves one question for all of us to think about. What's one small bid for connection you can make today?